Hello guys. Okay, this will be my third presentation. I'm a little bit slow on the uploads as far as how much content I'm creating and how much I'm uploading, only because I don't have the proper device to be sending 20 to 30 minute long videos over from my Nikon camera into my MacBook. So I'm waiting for the delivery of my card reader so I can convert the videos over through through the device, the Nikon Z30, into my MacBook so that I can properly upload these videos. But shorter ones don't seem to be a problem as far as utilizing the USB port directly into the Mac. But every photos and like shorter videos have no issue. It's the issue is with these longer form videos, and I really don't want to stoop down in the quality of the video, just because it'll just take a little bit of patience for me to send this over. So in waiting for those and waiting for that stuff to get sent over through the mail, I'm just gonna keep recording. Just gonna keep recording these things. So we're gonna be talking about masticatory force and the jaw mandibular bone growth. So first things first, we're gonna cite the research article that I'm taking the majority of this presentation on through, and we're gonna dive into a little bit of terminology as far as bones go, and then just dive into how do we grow this jawbone, what's the importance of growing the mandibular bone, and why should I do it, and what are some actionable steps that we can take on throughout our day in order to incite literal bone growth, increased bone density. So without further ado, let's get started with the presentation. In a study conducted on mice, we follow the facial bone growth based on tough diets versus normal diets. The importance of developing masticatory force throughout a lifelong development of humans. Remember, development doesn't just happen from the embryonic stage all the way up to the age of like 22 to 25. And men, development is all throughout the span of your life until you die, ultimately. So never think of yourself as someone who just needs to stagnate or who will stagnate one day. What's the saying from Shawshank Redemption? Get busy living or get busy dying, right? So we're all gonna be getting busy living here, okay? So first off, let's start off with some basic vocabulary under the terminology osteo. Excuse me. Under the terminology osteo. Osteo stands for bone, for those of you that didn't know. Osteoblast. Osteoblasts are cells that play a crucial role in the formation of the maintenance of bones. They are responsible for producing new bone tissue and mineralizing it to become stronger and more durable. Osteoblast. Osteoclast. Osteoclasts are responsible for breaking down bone tissue during the process of bone remodeling. They secrete acids and enzymes that dissolve the mineral matrix and degrade the organic components of the bone. Osteocyte. Osteocytes are cells embedded in the bone matrix that play a crucial role in maintaining bone health and regulate bone growth. They upregulate the expression of IGF-1. IGF-1 is insulin growth factor, and we will be diving into IGF-1 shortly. And on my Substack, which I've linked on my page, I have a couple of pictures on this specific post, which I'll get to posting once this video is up, on the entire anatomy of the bone. I have a very informative picture that I'm looking at right now, and I can actually show you. We got some, let's focus in. Yeah, we got some literal pictures that you can be looking at while I kick this presentation off. So if that's something you guys are interested in, just head on over to my Substack. It's linked on the page. So you can follow along while watching these pictures with me. It's actually pretty cool. This is currently still a draft right now, but it should be uploaded pretty close into the near future. Breaks down from the macro to the very micro level. It gets very granular, all the way down to the collagen molecule and the collagen fibril, and then as we get larger and larger, we get into the actual osteocytes, the osteons, the periosteal surface, which is the outer surface. Peri is outside. You think of perimeter is outside. It's the outer layer of the bone. We've also got pictures of the endosteal surface, which is endo is inner, endo, enter, into, endo, into. It's kind of a good way to think about that. Anyways, on to more terminology. Osteogenesis. Osteogenesis is also known as the bone ossification or bone mineralization, is the process of bone formation. It begins between the 6th and 7th weeks of the embryonic development and continues until about the age of 25. And during this process, cells called osteoblasts lay down new bone material. Now, that's not to say that you can't have more bone formation over the course of 25 onward. We're not saying that. We're not saying that if you implement force onto your body that it won't adapt, because it most certainly will. Your body will most certainly adapt when there's a stimulus acting upon that bone or that tissue in order for it to grow and survive. Your natural, basic biological instinct is to survive and maintain homeostasis. That is what your body does. It's incredible. It's incredible. So next we have the antithesis of osteogenesis, which is osteoporosis. And some of you may be familiar with that if you have older aunts, uncles, older grandparents, and they may be talking about this. This may be a very familiar word in these individuals' vocabulary. Osteoporosis is a bone disease that develops when bone mineral density and bone mass decreases, or when the structure and the strength of bone changes. This can lead to a decrease in bone strength that can increase the risk of fractures. So when you think about older people, we think about old and brittle and frail. These are not good things. These are not good things, and it's because of a sedentary lifestyle and or could be a nutrient deficiency. Something isn't being upheld to maintain the homeostasis of the bones. So instead of staying strong, they're becoming brittle. So just think about that. And I put in a couple of actionable steps to stave off osteoporosis for as long as possible. And these are very, very basic things that you can be doing in your everyday life. And you should be doing these things over the course of your entire development. Remember, we said development isn't from 1 to 25, but it's from 1 all the way through the course of your entire life. So first step, staying physically active by participating in weight-bearing exercises such as walking, running, or lifting weights. You want to load bear. This is like the axial skeleton, up and down. You want to load bear onto this axial skeleton. That's going to provide the most stimulus for your body to adapt to. Drinking alcohol in moderation or completely halt the usage of alcohol. Next, we have quitting smoking or not starting if you don't smoke. Then taking your medication if prescribed, which can help prevent fractures to people who have osteoporosis. Last, we have eating a nutrient-rich diet containing calcium and vitamin D to help maintain good bone growth. How does calcium and vitamin D support bone development, you ask? Well, thank you for asking. Calcium helps to build and maintain strong bones by providing the necessary structure and support. So calcium gives the tools. While vitamin D plays a vital role in enhancing calcium absorption from the intestines. So it takes those tools and sucks them out from the intestines into the bloodstream and all throughout the circulatory system, throughout the body to then utilize in your bones and your teeth and everywhere that requires calcium. Even your muscles require calcium for them to properly contract. Incredible. The human body, ladies and gentlemen, a miracle in and of itself. That all these steps and all these rules it has to abide by in order to maintain what we have here structurally. The least you can do is eat the right nutrients, right? The least you can do. All right, 11 minutes in. A balanced diet rich with dairy products, leafy green vegetables, and fortified foods, along with regular physical activity, can help ensure adequate intake of these vital nutrients for optimal bone health. Do note, bone mass and muscle mass in men do not come into full thickness until the mid to late 30s. Something to think about. We have more pictures here that you could look up on through my Substack. Factors of, excuse me, I'm gonna skip that. Now we're gonna dive into IGF-1. Remember we brought up IGF-1 earlier. IGF-1 is an important growth hormone mediating anabolic and linear growth promoting effect of the pituitary growth hormone protein. It has a GH independent growth stimulating effect with which respect to cartilage cells is possibly optimized by the synergistic action with GH. The importance of IGF-1. So now we dive into a little bit of the research study, right? Where we look at different patients who did have a fair amount of IGF-1 and didn't have a fair amount of IGF-1. So we're going to look at this very, very quickly. Our group has studied and followed 52 patients throughout childhood, puberty, and adulthood. We found that newborns with LS are slightly shorter at birth than healthy babies. So these shorter babies were ranging from 42 to 47 centimeters, and the healthy babies were ranging from 49 to 52 centimeters, suggesting that IGF-1 has some influence on intrauterine linear growth. This fact is forced by the findings that already at birth and throughout childhood, skeletal maturation is retarded, as is organ growth. These growth abnormalities include a small brain, as expressed by head circumference, a small heart, cardiomyopathy, and acromyopathy, a small chin. And when you think about chin projection, that's indicative of testosterone ornamentation, but also IGF-1 ornamentation. So, which has a direct correlation, IGF-1 having a direct correlation with bone density and bone projection. So, yeah, if you could like self-diagnose, you could say like, hey, I don't have a very protruded chin. Maybe I was missing some IGF-1 during my intrauterine phase. IGF-1 deficiency also causes underdevelopment and weakness of the muscular system and impairs and weakens hair and nail growth. These findings are identical to those described in IGHD. IGF-1 deficiency throughout childhood causes dwarfism with an abnormally high upper to lower body ratio. So if you think of a little person, yeah, they usually have very, very short legs and, sizable larger upper body than they do have legs. One patient reported from the UK was found to have deletion of exons 4 and 5 of the IGF-1 gene, and he too was found to have severe growth retardation. Impaired growth and skeletal development in the absence of IGF-1 were confirmed in mice using knockout of IGF-1 gene and GH receptor gene. Knockout of IGF-1 gene or the IGF-1 receptor receptor gene reduces the size of the mice by 40 to 45%. All right, in conclusion, finding in humans and in animals show that IGF-1 deficiencies causes pronounced growth retardation in the presence of increased GH values. So very important that IGF-1 is released properly. You could do a blood panel to find out what your IGF-1 markers are at. And furthermore, we dive into mastication and oromaxillofacial growth. So 2 videos ago, we talked about the fundamentals of mewing, keeping proper tongue posture within this oral cavity, keeping your tongue on the roof of your mouth, utilizing the and holding that posture over the course of the day, utilizing the suction technique. So just keeping that tongue on the roof of your mouth, allowing that top palate to be pushed upwards, which will guide that maxilla to protrude forward, and the mandible will also follow along. So the oromaxillofacial region is not only the maxilla, but also the mandible. So this entire area of your mouth, from, we'll say, the lower orbital cavity down to your submental region, should all be pointed parallel or slightly up. And that is ideal. So, and that's all I have as far as research goes. Now I'm just gonna riff off and talk about some things, and maybe some future goals to set, and activities that we're going to be doing in the near future. So I have these jaw exercise. You see that? I have these jaw exercises. You put them in your back 2 molars, and you just chomp down on them all day long, or you could choose to do them all day long. I'm doing like 10 to 20 minute iterations at the start of the day and 10 to 20 minute iterations at the end of the day. And then throughout the day, I will just be chewing regular gum. Well, this is like Turkish gum. It's sugar-free Nazar. They used to be pretty tough, but I built up my jaw muscles. Just by consistently masticating pretty often. So it's not as difficult as it used to be in the past, which is the reason why I got the jaw exerciser, is to increase mastication load. So the idea is, in the same way that your muscle will influence the osteoclasts to release IGF-1, the hormone that incites, that incorporates more bone growth. The idea is that will also happen when you masticate very, very often. So increase mastication, stimulate the muscle, which is the masseter muscle, and then theoretically the jawbone should follow suit as well. And in this study we had, which will be linked later on. Yeah, it will be linked later on, but there is a study with mice that when they were given a hard diet versus a soft diet, the mice with the hard diets, they were masticating, or their masticatory force was increased, and when their jaw bones were analyzed, they had thicker jaws. They had actual thicker bone density in opposition to the mice that didn't have the harder diet. So what is that all to say? Well, theoretically speaking, if we stimulate the muscle, then what's going to follow along with the thicker muscle is thicker bone density, increased bone density. So that's the pitch. That's the pitch. We're going to increase the bone density of our jaws by increasing mastication, and we're gonna see what ultimately ends up happening. We could talk a little bit more about bones later on in the future and really dive into the anatomy and physiology of what's going on with the bones. But it is quite profound that these osteocytes are. Now, when you think about the skeletal structure, it's only held up and maintained by the actual muscular system. The muscular system gives shape to the body, or gives shape to the structure of the skeletons, and keeps all the skeletons in place. And kind of a personal story here, I had a lot of dislocations in my right shoulder, where I dislocated over and over and over again, and now there's no longer a bone that connects my shoulder together, but it's all muscle that holds like my rotator cuff together. And it took a lot of training in personal physical therapy, and like a very stringent long road of like chronic dislocations, chronic slipping, chronic shoulder slippage out of the socket. And over the course of a long time, I just strengthened my right shoulder so much all the way around and made sure that I was like very flexible. And now my shoulder stays together for the most part, and I can do very complex weightlifting movements, and I can do a lot of gymnastics movements with no issue at all. You can actually check that on my channel. So very interesting that this is also something that theoretically we can implement with our oral posture, is utilizing that tongue, utilizing these masseter muscles that we're given to chomp down on our food. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of a year, what happens maybe to my bone density, or if you follow along as well and implement the increased masticatory force over a long duration of time, what happens to your jawbone growth and development. So yep, that's the pitch for you guys as far as that goes. And yeah, this should be posted in no time, man. Like, I'm hoping by the weekend. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Like, we have a lot of stuff to dive into, and it's gonna be pretty awesome to just dive into all these research articles, and like maybe even like revisit these concepts and refine them a little bit more. I'm just trying to get some traffic out there and have something for you guys to gnaw on and just think about over the course of some time. So it'll be helpful to have, a couple of videos backlogged. And yeah, so thanks for following along. I'll see ya in the next one.